I'll just discuss some of the key elements that you need to do or at least be aware of when resolving errors, right? So let's bring up the CalPAD's website. This is our test site. So it doesn't make sense to start looking at your errors if you don't know where the resources are, right? So go to help to be able to go to the resources that you need. You need to go to help, go to either system documentation, the user manual, the error list, okay? And at the bottom, you could also have, if you are sure that your data is correct, but for some reason CalPAS is throwing errors at you, then you could also look at the active and fixed known issues. Then you also have your valid code combinations document, which is one of the vital tools that you will need in determining courses, staff assignments, and specific non-classroom job codes for each teacher, right? So let's go to those pages right now. Let's start with the user manual. I'm biased because I maintain this, but anyway, if you click on user manual, it should bring you to the user manual homepage. I would recommend you start with the flow to roadmap. Okay. Once you click on the flow to roadmap, it provides you all of the useful information that is essential for you to at least jumpstart your flow to data population or collection. So you have here your deadlines. You have here your flow to submission checklist, which provides you a more detailed information of the task and responsibilities that each of your departments may need to do, right? So you have here the same milestones for the dates that you should hit. uh, so the expectation is you should at least be zero errors uh, probably a week before the deadline. Okay, so the photo checklist should provide you all of the detailed information in terms of what data to collect, what steps to do. If you are new to CalPads, I believe there was a big turnover of staff during end of year, and so this is your first follow to submission. So take advantage of this submission checklist, and this is also a way for you to at least list who should be doing the job, right? It's more like a racy matrix as well. And so, and then you could send them this copy, provide your list all of the responsible staff members who would help you in collecting your data. And then you could also add more columns here like expected date of submission or expected time of review. So you can expand to this spreadsheet if you want to be able to, just have a strategy in terms of finishing your follow to submission. Another thing is, of course, the changes to CalPad. So this part here, what is new to follow to provides you a summary of Flash 293. Flash 293 was just released a week ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure. But unfortunately, it's still not in the CalPad CD documentation page. And so for those who need it, let me know. I can just drop it on the in the chat box. So this is basically what all of the errors will be. You have the conversion of errors at least. So we've done away with certification errors for fall 2 and converted it into DDs. So these would be the corresponding error numbers. And then we introduced new errors this year. Um, you have here SAS 695F2, which expects, which triggers if you introduce a class record for a staff member who does not have a updated staff demographic record this year. Okay. And then we also have a combination of SCSE errors that you will need to that you will encounter. So we've broken down the Cert 77 error that we had before. So right, so starting this year, there will be two validations that would trigger for depending on what student subgroup is being validated. So if a student who is primary enrolled does not have a course this year and they are primary enrolled and they are SPED students, then it will trigger a 641F2. Now, if the student is not a SPED student and they don't have any courses reported, then it would trigger a 693F2. Okay. And then we also introduce a new error to enforce the guidance on the FTE percentage of employee on leave staff members. So we have SASS 0118 for that matter. So we will demo some of that errors, but this is this if you're new to CalPAS, you should start in the reporting roadmap. You have links to the staff demographic file, and it provides you the different requirements, field elements, when each field is required, all of those stuff. So look at those. And then, of course, you have your PSTS, the PSTS that Matt just recently explained, has links to Fall 2 PSTS submission and Fall 1 and end of year PSTS submission. So you have the link to the survey template. So if you click on this, it brings you to this section of the CD website where they have the new CTE survey template, right? So I highly recommend bookmarking the user manual and referring to the photo roadmap um, for any questions on Fall 2 collection. We also have all the answers that we fielded with regards to questions to who should be the teacher of record. They're all here. Scenarios that Matt also highlighted in the PowerPoint presentation with regards to scenarios for teachers, how to report them. Everything's here, how to report librarians, how to report special education assignments, so your RSPs, and your teachers who are in departmentalized courses. So this, you should refer to this section. And then of course, when is a SEED 999 applicable? So there is that explanation. So all of that information are here. We also still had, I saw a question about when there would be a new teacher assignment monitoring training. Unfortunately, there is none right now, but since there were minimal changes in terms of the CalPAD's business requirements, the changes that we have this year are more towards validations. And so with regards to picking courses, picking staff assignments, this is a useful video that you could refer to. Then, of course, when you're trying to see appropriate credentials for courses, for SPED categories, for EL services, and for non-classroom based assignments. We have it here. So, and then later on, we may also update this section of the training resources when all of our PowerPoints are available for publishing. So for the Fall 2 data population live training, we may update this later today on top of the CSIS resource page in CalPEDS. Okay. All right. So another thing is the resource page. So if you go to the reference page, all of the documentation can be downloaded from here. The definition of each code set appropriate to Fall 2, when each field is required to be populated, that's your forms, and then your valid code combinations document, that's essentially one of the key files you should be, or key tools that you should be using most of the time. So you have here, when you have questions about your courses, questions about what non-classroom code is applicable for a specific job classification, all of these are here. So if you're new to CalPADS, please do know it can be downloaded from the reference page. And then, of course, you have your troubleshooting page. So all of these errors, if you need a spreadsheet copy of the error list, you could download it from here, aside from downloading it from the bottom of CalPADS. And then you have all of the errors listed here. And of course, each of these error numbers are linked to any of your errors triggered in CalPADS, which we should focus on right now. So So when you upload files to CalPads and then check your errors, normally you would now deal with data discrepancies, right? So the common data discrepancies that we have that has been introduced this year is the SAS record does not have an SDM record with effective dates for the same year. So essentially, this is triggering for staff members who you have not updated a staff demographic file. Okay, so let's look at one error. That way, I can demo how to resolve this error. So if you go to the data discrepancy section, assuming you've already uploaded files to CalPads and successfully posted those files, this would be the errors you will encounter. Uh, Number one, you have here missing courses. If you have not submitted SCSE files yet, then you have no staff assignments for demographics. If, let's say, you have not submitted any staff assignments yet, this would be the error that will trigger. So let's focus on this one error here. As the SASS does not have an SDM record with effective dates for the same year. So this error was introduced to uh, to make sure that you've updated your staff demographics record for a staff member. So let's click on this error number, and it brings you to that specific page in the CalPads user manual that I've mentioned. Okay, so it says your SAS record does not have an SDM record with effective dates for the same academic year. So it's just stating that you've sent us a SAS record for 24-25. However, the most recent staff demographic record that is associated to this staff member uh, is from prior years. Okay, so in layman's terms, that's how this validation is triggering. So let's go to the error to that staff member. So we have here a staff assignment introduced this year. However, the most recent staff demographic record has an effective date from a prior year. So why is this a, um, a key validation? Number one, it it forces you to update your staff demographic record every year, right? And then number two, when you update your staff demographic record, it also forces you to at least look at your staff service years and make sure that the staff service years have an incremental update as well. Okay, CalPAS is not intelligent enough to validate if you've updated your staff service years. As you know, if you have a staff service year of just one or two, they will be considered as inexperienced teachers. Yes, that's right. So it is important that you always have to update your staff demographics. And so that's the reason why if you introduce a staff assignment record, there should be a staff demographic record in CalPads for that specific academic year, as indicated by the effective start date. And so this boils down to, again, making sure, even though the CalPads will allow you to submit different files in different orders, you know, you can submit SCSE ahead of a CRSE or SASS ahead of SDM. However, if you do that, be aware that CalPads will trigger errors if the expected file before the file that you're updating is missing in CalPads. So it is important that you still continue to follow the sequence of submission: SDM, SASS, CRSE, and SCSE. Okay, so how do we resolve this? Then, of course, you just add a new record or submit your SDM file for this year if you have not uploaded your SDM file to CalPads yet. Okay, so let's just say staff member was here since August 5. That's the start of the year. And then you also have to populate your race and ethnicity. And then, of course, the staff service years. Make sure the staff service years reflect the total years of service, the LEA, as well as the total years of service uh, as a certificated teacher. right? So once you post that, and then the data discrepancy refreshes, this error will fall off. Okay. So both 685 and 695 will trigger if you introduce a staff assignment, but there is no demographic record in the current academic year that for that staff member. Okay, so this always goes hand in hand with when an error triggers. Okay. Second one is no staff assignment for demographics. So SDM 689F2. So this was for all of you Alpads OGs. This is basically CERT 84. So it's just stating that you you have an active staff demographic record this year, or there is a staff member who appears to still be active because there's no employment end date. However, you have not submitted a staff assignment for the staff member. So essentially, this is just the opposite of the error that we just demoed, right? So if you have staff members triggering that error, so make sure that you ask the question, is the staff member still employed? If so, then of course update their staff assignments. Okay. Then of course also update the staff demographic this year and then update the staff assignment. Now, if the staff member is no longer employed, right, then that's when you have to send up an updated staff demographic record with an employment end date. And Matt mentioned it's easier to do that now because, of course, we've eliminated the confusion of that record effective end date that we had in prior years, right? How do you tell CalPads to ignore a staff member for this current year? So let's say if the staff member should not be reported, how do you do that? Right. So the way to do that is just to put an employment end date. So if you're doing this manually online, you just scroll to the bottom of the most recent demographic record that exists in CalPads associated to your LEA, and then put an employment end date to that record. Okay. So once you put an employment end date, assuming this staff member left before census day, then that seed number will be excluded from any validations, right? So for those new to CalPads, take advantage of the CalPads user manual, take advantage of all the links to errors because it leads you to the actual error page. Now, if you're comfortable with dealing with spreadsheets still, then you can always go to the troubleshooting page and download the error list. That way you can filter for each error in the spreadsheet. Let's do one more. So another error, of course, that will be enforced this year is that employee on leave error, right? So in CalPads, let's say if I report this staff member, since this staff member is still the teacher of record, obviously this teacher should have a FTE of greater than 1% based on Flash 293 and based on all of the guidance, right? So what happens if you send up a staff assignment for a staff member who is on leave and you still follow the 0% FTE from prior year? So just for demo purposes, let's use that and then do 6018 employee on leave. Right? And you will get SAS 0018, staff job classification value 0. So starting this year, make sure that if you encounter this error, the staff member is on leave, make sure that you have an FT percentage greater than 1, or better yet, just report the regular FTE percentage. Okay, so that's just a brief demo of potential errors that you will encounter in Fall 2. If you need assistance with any of these errors, or if for some reason you can't figure out why this error is triggering, even though your data is correct, you can either look at current known issues and see if there are any active issues. And if there are none, and you are sure that this could be a bug, you can always scroll down to the bottom and just click on create a ticket. And that should send a brief summary of your error. Make sure that, of course, you follow ticket convention that we recommend you. So make sure that the job ID, the error number, maybe a seed number or SSID number or course number is also indicated in the file, right? And we'll be glad to assist you with all of those with troubleshooting your errors. Right? There are DDs right now that were activated last year that might be running already this year, but there are some who might not still be activated. There is no deployment this week because of the fall one deadline, and so expect a deployment next week. So there is also confusion within RSP, right? It boils down to, does that teacher have a counselor or has a pupil service credential or a teacher credential? If you have a SPED person who is pupil service credential, then you just have to report a non-classroom job assignment and report them as pupil service. Now, if the special ed staff member is a teacher, they have teaching credentials, and their job is to provide RSP, then follow the guidance in the CalPAS user manual with regards to reporting fault to SPED teachers. So you have them reported as job 27, report 9231. Make sure that the state course code 9231 is flagged with a special education setting. And then you have the option to not report your students under this teacher. Take note, the focus for Fall 2 is more towards who are the credential staff members employed at your district, what are their jobs, what are their classifications, what courses are they teaching, and are they credentialed to teach those courses. So bear that in mind. Those are the basic stuff that's collected in Fall. Now, with that list of information, you can probably start from there in terms of analyzing how to report staff members and also where to find the resources for it. What if it is an RSP teacher that is in collab with a Gen Ed 80% of the time? You have to separate that teacher, Lori. So as I mentioned, you can do a team teaching, because what happens is that that RSP teacher will be associated to a state course code 1000. And if that teacher does not have a multi-teacher credential and they're just teaching, they just have a SPED credential, then of course it would be a misassignment. So you have to separate those course of the teacher. Any RSP teacher that is embedded in a class, that teacher should be separated from those team teaching classes. And the way to do that is to create them a 9231 state course code course, mark them as 27, and flag that course as 700. Yes, so please refer to this guidance on the CalPAS user manual. So you have to separate any RSP teacher embedded to a class, and that's how you report them. 27, 9231, 700.